Akira is a degenerate Discord mod who develops a game to cope with his useless existence. However, everything changes when he gets teleported to the game world, where he collects baddies like Pokemons for his own personal harem. It starts with Akira sitting in front of his computer like a smelly gamer boy, ready to shut down the servers of a game he managed to run for 15 years. As the clock strikes 12, he says farewell to Kunai, the Demonlord character from the game, and closes the servers for good. However, a bright light appears from his computer, and he finds himself being carried into a tunnel of clouds while a mysterious voice talks to him. Not long after, Akira finds himself in a peaceful forest, realizing he's dressed like a mafia boss, knockoff straight off the discount rack. Looking at his own reflection in the water, he sees that he is now in the body of the Demonlord Kunai, which means he's now turned into the protagonist of yet another Isekai. The man fails to understand how he can be trapped in a game he created himself, but uses his extensive knowledge to unlock admin mode. However, he's told he does not meet the requirements to use it yet, so he lights up a cigarette thinking he's Spike Spiegel. Just then, he spots a damsel in distress coming out of the forest and decides to blend in by acting how the real Kunai would act. Before they can talk, a huge monster appears before him and slashes his face. However, this pisses off Kunai, who activates his powers and defeats the demon in just one attack. He then realizes he never coded this monster or that girl into this game, meaning he might be in a different world than that of his game. The girl panics and begs him not to eat her, but he's a gentleman who usually only kisses on the first date. Since Kunai trounced a huge monster, she believes he must be the Demonlord, but he asks her to address him as Kunai. The girl then introduces herself as Akka, and reveals they are in the Kingdom of Holy Light, where people worship the cherub. Beneath the cherub are the three holy maidens, the holy knights, and an organization they call the Holy Church. Tired of her non-stop yapping, Kunai tells the girl to go wash off in the lake, because she reeks like a skibidi toilet. Later, as Akka is washing the shit off her face, she wonders if Kunai asked her to bathe so he could make a clean meal out of her. Kunai, on the other hand, is delighted because he's finally able to unlock admin privileges from the admin menu that he created. Using an item command, he summons a bath towel and soap for Akka, and decides to walk around while she bathes. Inside the forest, he realizes that his skill points are dropping, which was a mechanic he created in his game. He's already lost 5 points by creating a towel and soap, so he must fight stronger monsters to regain them. After Aku finishes bathing, he asks her if monsters appear often in this area. However, she reveals if that were the case, the world would have ended already. Since such monsters are quite rare, Kunai wants to find their den, so Aku tells him about a sealed monster at the wishing shrine in this forest. Kunai asks if she can guide him there, but when he notices she's hurt her leg, he offers a piggyback ride like a true gentleman. Seeing him act so nicely, Aku starts bawling and admits she's usually stuck as the village's official trash collector and poop cleaner. People hated her for looking dirty and smelling like and they got so fed up that they decided to sacrifice her to the monster that appeared earlier. She insists that Kunai will get dirty if he touches her, but the man gets tired of her yapping and picks her up. On the way, he explains how a mere bath can wash off all the filth from one's body, assuring her that she in fact does not smell as bad as she looks. Later, he pulls out a diary and writes his name, a math equation, and the word game in it. Surprisingly, Aku is able to read all 3 languages, which tells Kunai people here use the same language as the ones he knows. Aku then tells him about the shrine, which is said to have some kind of power capable of sealing monsters. She also says it can grant the power to rule the world, but Kunai has no interest in such things. Once they arrive at the shrine, Kunai smells something weird, and for once it's not Akka. For safety reasons, he asks Akka to wait out while he goes in and inspects the area. There, he finds several dead bodies in magic circles, followed by a big white statue of a lady who addresses him as the Demonlord. She reveals she's granted many wishes, but this one will be her last. Kunai asks if she is the one who summoned him, but she reveals it was the dead people behind him who wanted the Demonlord to ascend. He asks if she unleashed that monster Griol too, but the lady says it broke out on his own power and started demanding sacrifices from the villagers. Kunai makes his wish, which is to go back to his world, but the lady does not have the power to grant it. What? Instead, she gives him a ring with a skull on it and turns into dust like Thanos snapped on her. Heading outside, he asks Ako if there are any large cities nearby, and she mentions the capital. Before heading there, they decide to visit Aka's village so she can grab a few things from her place. On the way, she explains how the area around her village is all withered away, all thanks to Griol's curse. Not just the soil, but the water is seething with poison, which explains why she was covered in when he found her. Once they arrive at her village, Kunai puts her down and uses a stealth stance to make himself invisible. Soon after, some locals show up wanting to bully her, and Kunai communicates with her telepathically to assure her he's with her. When the locals start stoning her, Kunai gets furious, and all of a sudden, the skull rings start speaking to him. It offers to purge all the humans from this world, but when Kunai deems it evil, the ring reminds him that he is the one who created this world, which means he is actually evil. However, Kunai manages to control himself and steps in to stop the locals from stoning Akka. This causes even more panic, especially when they learn he's the Demonlord. So Kunai creates fire to distract them and runs off with Akka. She asks why he's doing so much for a worthless idiot like her, but Kunai advises her not to determine her worth based on what other people think of her. With that, the two of them head to the capital to continue their journey. Elsewhere, a carriage guarded by knights is taking a girl named Luna to the capital, who is more than ready to subdue the Demonlord. Spotting her carriage from a distance, a boy informs his master Wengol of the Holy Maiden's arrival alongside an escort of 20 knights. Wengol, the chief of moles, finds pride in the fact that the Holy Maiden herself has come to subjugate them. But not even a blind woman would swipe right on that face. Around the same area, Kunai is carrying Akka on his back and suddenly has the bright idea to camp in the middle of nowhere. Using admin commands, Kunai summons a small box containing all the survival goods and another box containing defense goods. Using these two boxes, he creates a base so strong it can even withstand a rocket launcher, but it still can't stand Akka's awful smell, so he asks her to bathe. Heading inside, Akka is shocked to see that Kunai has built a makeshift bathroom for her, and while she is in awe, Kunai is not impressed, stating he will one day create a hot spring for her. As he lies in his bed, he realizes this world also has a moon, and as he's lost in the thought of how to get back to his own world, Akka is enjoying a warm bath in the makeshift bathroom. After she's done, Kunai comments that she smells less disgusting than before, which is the best compliment she's ever received. Akka then snuggles into his bed, asking if they can share for the night.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
To which he hesitantly agrees. The next day, the moles have taken spots atop the cliffs and are ready to ambush Luna and her escorts. However, all they see is Kunai carrying Akka on his back. Wengol assumes these two are a trap set by the Holy Maiden, who is waiting to ambush them. Thus, he suggests a quick hit-and-run strategy, but Kunai is already aware of their presence. As soon as he puts Akka down, the moles launch arrows at him, but he creates a barrier to block them. Turns out the moles are under level 30, which is the minimal level requirement for any opponent to inflict damage on Akane. This means the moles are no threat to him in their current state. He then calls out the moles to stop hiding like cowardly, so they all ambush him together. Wengol introduces himself as the chief, and Kunai can't help but notice how he looks similar to his manager in the other world. However, Wengol is a completely different person who just happens to be an uglier look-alike of an already hideous man. The two start arguing over who's more old and rotten, so one of the moles uses this opportunity to attack Kunai from behind. However, Kunai sends him flying with a flick, leaving the others shocked. Just then, Luna makes an appearance and knocks out many moles with a single attack. Wengol asks his remaining men to make a run for it, but she catches them using an attack called Gold Slash. The attack is shot in every direction, and Kunai is unable to produce the barrier to protect himself, which must mean Luna is a max-level magic user. As Luna's knights show up, Kunai expresses frustration because she's acting like a sassy despite almost hitting Akka. Instead of apologizing, she has her head up her and sends her men to capture him, but Kunai protects himself using the magic barrier. After defeating all of her men, he menacingly walks up to Luna, who is now terrified of his powers. The man carries her in his arms and gives her some good old smacks for acting like a brat. Later, he heads to the city after confiscating Luna's money pouch, so he can put that money to good use. Unbeknownst to him, Luna and her escorts are tailing him, and Luna is not too happy about getting her smacked in the most literal sense. Arriving at the market of Yavu, he uses Luna's money to get himself and Akka some barbecue, and then heads to the local inn to buy their most expensive room. Akka calls her the Demonlord out of habit, which scares the man at the counter. Thus, he strictly asks her not to call him that in front of other people. Once inside, he realizes he cannot have Akko looking like a fashion disaster and takes her to the boutique for a better outfit. There he pulls out a large gold coin and asks the fruity manager to get her something of the highest quality. Soon after, Akko comes out looking like a Disney princess, and even though he thinks she looks super pretty, he has to stay in Kunai's character. That evening, he takes her to a fancy restaurant for dinner, and everyone starts gossiping about the relationship between him and Akko. Once the food arrives, Akko gets all flustered and asks why he's been so nice to her. She wants to pay her back and is ready to do anything for him. But their conversation is interrupted by Luna barging in the restaurant. She cannot believe he's eating out with her money, but Kunai reminds her she gave him that money as an apology. When she starts acting like a brat again, Kunai gently asks her to get seated with them or else he'll smack her butt again. He then apologizes to the rest of the people for the commotion she caused and offers a bottle of wine on every table to make up for it. Later, as Akko and Kunai are walking back to the inn, he notices that she's still limping and decides to carry her in his arms. Once they enter their room, Luna shows up knocking at the door, whomping that she does not have enough money to get her own place. Kunai gives her the money back and sends her on her way, but she insists on staying with them for the night. Meanwhile, Luna's sister is on her way to the city to teach her a lesson. That night, Akko and Luna are sharing a bath, and while Akko is a little hesitant, Luna asks her to open up a little. Meanwhile, Kunai is in the living room inspecting a crown and decides to put it in the infinite storage he got using admin commands. When the girls exit the shower, he asks Luna to spill everything she knows about the cherub. She reveals that the cherub died after using all its power to seal the Demon King Griol. However, the kingdom still has the Ophan and Seraph, who serve to guide the people and maintain peace. Meanwhile, a band of warriors led by the second holy maiden Killer Queen is approaching the city of Yahoo. She is clearly jealous of the fact that Luna went ahead without informing her to capture the Demonlord, which is something that would make her stand out. The next day, after understanding the cherub's situation, Kunai set his eyes on finding Ophan and Seraph. However, Luna reveals no one has seen them in ages, but some people believe the stone statue at the wishing shrine of the Ophan. Kunai has already met that statue lady in the shrine and wonders if she really was Ophan. Heading outside, the man decides to gather more information, but before that, he needs to gather some money too. He comes across a shop that deals with antiques and collectibles, and creates an elaborate story about a teapot from his motherland that has been preserved for ages. The collector named Nandin is impressed by the teapot, but in reality, it is a useless item. Kunai made it using a few skill points. Nandin asks him to name a price, but Kunai plays the long game, revealing he's sharing it to establish a long-term partnership. However, since he has no money on him, he asks for one giant gold coin to go by. Nandin says he's heard good things about him and happily agrees to the deal. However, Kunai tells him that the teapot is actually worth 5 giant gold coins, much to his shock. Meanwhile, a gang of satanists is gathered in their hideout, discussing their failure to summon the Demonlord. However, since the holy maidens are on the move because of it, their leader Walking wants to use this as an opportunity to wipe them out. Back in Yahoo, Killer Queen makes a scene by marching straight into the city with her small army. She demands that Luna and the Demonlord present themselves, and when Luna actually shows up, she starts insulting her for going out on her own. She even thinks Luna created this fake Demonlord story to get attention, but Luna swears the Demonlord is real and is totally obsessed with her flat. Just then, the satanists show up out of nowhere and start casting spells to take out both of the maidens. However, the army chief Fuji alone is enough to deflect their attacks. Seeing their outfits, Kunai immediately recognizes that these are the same people who tried to summon the Demonlord back at the shrine but failed. Before wasting any time, the maidens and their army take out the satanists while Kunai hides himself because he does not want any unwanted attention. However, Walking pulls out a chest that releases a dark matter that surrounds and defeats most of their men. Killer Queen quickly asks Luna to get to safety, naming the dark matter Hades. However, both of them get stuck in it, causing their divine powers to deplete. When the satanists shoot arrows at the sisters, Fuji bravely shields them with his own body, but even he cannot withstand the attacks. As Hades approaches Kunai, the ring starts speaking to him, asking him to take out everyone at once, including the civilians. Kunai argues that he would be a wanted man all over the kingdom if he did that, but the ring quickly takes over his body, engulfing him in a bright light. Soon after, a white-haired man appears and takes out the satanists with ease. Seeing his sick costume and style, Killer Queen's sprinkler goes off and she starts fangirling over this white-robed man. Seeing just a glimpse of his power, the satanists make a run for it, but he uses his dragon-based powers to chase them down and finish them off. Afterward, he checks up on Luna, who cannot believe a guy so handsome is looking after her. She asks him for his name, and the man introduces himself as Zero. Zero then leaves to survey the area while Walking gets away just barely after rescuing Hades. Later, Aka finds Kunai bumping his head into a wall, embarrassed about being turned into Zero. He asks Aka if she saw the white-robed man, and she reveals she heard it all from Luna. Turns out Akira created Zero as a joke character in his game, but he's turned into the punchline himself. Meanwhile, two adventurers Yuki and Mikan arrive at a guild and decide to take a mission to earn some quick cash. At the counter, they see a poster of Kunai with a bounty on his head and decide to pursue him. That night, Kunai learns Luna sent all his soldiers home and gets frustrated when he learns he is now promoted to her bodyguard. The next day, Kunai asks Luna to change into a less royal outfit so she does not stand out too much. Despite initially acting like a typical tsundere, she decides to wear the dress Kunai gives her. Meanwhile, Yuki and Mikan are strolling through the desert windstorm looking for the supposed Demonlord. While Yuki is a laid-back, lazy mage who complains about the dust and the heat, Mikan is a veteran warrior whose sole focus is to complete the mission. Soon after, they come across a large pack of sand wolves who previously were using the sandstorm to hide themselves. Once the dust settles, the sand wolves make themselves appear, and their numbers are so large both Yuki and Mikan declare bravery isn't part of their character, but running sure it is. Back in the carriage, Kunai decides to take a break to smoke and advises Luna to change while he's gone. She believes he wants to peep at her reed end, but in all honesty, there's nothing much to see there. Outside, as he does his best Eki from Walmart impression, Kunai brainstorms ways to increase his levels, which have been decreasing over time. Just then, he notices a sandstorm approaching their carriage, with Yuki and Mikan running ahead of it. Soon after, he notices a large pack of sand wolves following the girls and assumes she led them towards him. Despite initially panicking, Kunai stands his ground, allowing Yuki and Mikan to hide behind the carriage. When the wolves leap on him, his barrier automatically deploys, making him realize these wolves are lower than level 30. With his confidence booster, Kunai uses his first skill assault to take out many wolves on the front lines. After that, he uses the second skill, Sand Blind, to create a tornado, and the third skill, Thunderclap, to strike them with lightning. When the dust settles, only a few wolves remain standing, and they are so intimidated by Kunai's powers that they simply skedaddle out of there. Kunai strolls up to Yuki and Mikan and tells them to try using their brains next time instead of putting everyone else in danger with their stupid decisions. With that, Kunai says farewell and gets on his way, leaving them wondering if he is the Demonlord they were supposed to capture. In a carriage, Aku starts fangirling over Kunai because he keeps saving her life again and again. She is so impressed by him that she vows to be by his side even if the whole world turns against them. Luna then gives him a half compliment for being a good bodyguard, and the man returns it by praising her new look. Later, as they take a break to feed the horse, Kunai opens the admin panel and starts celebrating. Luna, on the other hand, asks Aka to be careful around Kunai because she thinks he's a pimp. Kunai then reveals he needs to do some thinking and brings out the safe house he created earlier for them to stay. As the girls head inside, Kunai notices Aka is still limping but brushes it off. He even asks the driver to head inside if he wants, but the man decides to stay outside to feed the horse. Thus, Kunai introduces him to a cigarette, and the two talk about their encounter with the wolves. Later, he opens a menu that shows 8 aids that work directly under Kunai. These special aids are nearly as strong as 1,000 regular aids, but they require a lot of skill points to summon. For now, Kunai only has enough to summon 1 aid, so he must think it through properly. He realizes he and his underlings do not have strong protection against magic, so he should summon an aid that can address that issue. The first aid that comes to his mind is Yu, a genius doctor and scientist who can surely create something to protect against magic attacks. The problem is her sadistic tendencies and her extremely short temper, but Kunai believes he is strong enough to deal with her. Using admin commands, he finally summons Yu, and when he sees her talking like a normal human, he can't help but praise his own skills with a straight face. As he starts explaining the world they are in, Luna and Aka are sharing the barrel bath, with Luna planning to manipulate Kunai into giving them this house. Back outside, Yu starts speaking in rocket science, ending it by explaining that they will need access to Nightless City to make something of it. Nightless City is a place that houses the greatest pieces of technology in the whole game. but it is also the final area of the game. They will need to make a lot of progress to get there, and Kunae's first plan of action is to upgrade their base into a field hospital. He also forbids you from executing any living beings for science, to which she agrees. Later, he introduces you to the other two and asks her to take a look at Aka's leg. Yu uses a skill called the Hand of God to turn her fingers into medical instruments and proceeds to fix Aka's leg. She is now able to walk on both her legs and thanks them both for the help. She then starts running around like a cute idiot to experience the joy of having two functioning legs, and Kunae can't help but adore her innocence. Happy to be living a normal life, Aku asks Kunae to grab her hand and take her on a walk. On the way, she makes him promise that he will never leave her. But when Kunae tells her she should save this promise for a guy she likes, she whispers under her breath that she's already found that guy. Back at the base, Kunae places his hand on Yu's shoulder as a compliment for helping Aka. But as soon as he touches her, Yu's body starts feeling an overwhelming sense of euphoria. She is unable to understand why she feels such immense joy just by receiving praise from Kunae and wants to explore her emotions further. That night, Yuki and Mikan stay in a bar where Yuki tells stories about this supposed demon lord like he's packing more junk than Drake. Mikan, on the other hand, asks him to stop drooling over him as he's their enemy after all. She also reveals that Yuki is actually a boy who dresses up as a girl. But where there is a hole, there is a way. Meanwhile, the Satanists gather in their man cave where Walking gets for his failure to defeat the maidens, mainly due to the interference of Zero. The founder named Utopia mentions how the demon king Griol that they summoned was defeated by some demon lord, which means they will need to strengthen Hades with more sacrifices. Thus, he plans on letting it consume the entire capital and gives orders to begin the operation. On the other hand, Kunae and the rest are traveling through when Kunae spots a deserted village on the way. When he asks what that place is, Luna realizes it is part of her territory, so they decide to check it out. Kunae mentions the sad state of the village, but Luna couldn't care less since she's not interested in ruling. She also reveals someone else from the church was assigned to this place, so it's none of her business anyway. Kunae quickly figures Luna is just a maiden for the show, because she is terrible at running territories. This is why she was granted this wasteful land so she could stay away from the main lands. He telepathically communicates this with Yu, who seconds him by saying the church is using Luna by giving him a problematic land. This also means they would not care what happens to this land, so Kunae can use it for his own benefit. He asks Luna to give him a corner of the village so Yu can run a clinic from there, which will ultimately help the villagers too. Later, he mentions how he plans on creating the clinic near a hot spring so he can double the money. Just then, a man greets Luna, but is shocked to see her traveling with a wanted man. Kunae figures he's the guy who's appointed by the church to run this place, and lets him know that he and Luna will be in charge from here on out. When the man mentions talking it over with his superiors, Kunae hits him with a reality check. Luna's the rightful ruler here, so he better skedaddle before he finds himself on the wrong end of an kicking. After he leaves, Kunae promises Luna to make this village a better place. Meanwhile, two girls, Momo and Kyan, are picking carrots from their farm, but are disappointed with the bad quality of the crops. They discuss the poor quality of water and soil, which needs a constant supply of crystals to produce a higher quality harvest. Just then, Kunae and the rest show up at their farm, and Luna reveals these girls belong to the bunny race who were once adored by the church. Now, they've all gathered here to live a peaceful life. Kunae smells something fishy, so Luna reveals that all species except humans are hated in the kingdom of holy light. They talk to the bunnies about the shortage of water, and Kunae is already annoyed because the bunny girls finish every sentence with the word hop. Later, they show up the water well and Yu goes inside to inspect the water. She reveals the water vein has been completely exhausted, so even digging deeper will not change anything. Kunae decides to create a magic pulley wheel that will produce water regardless of the state of the well. With Yu's help, he installs the mechanism to the well and asks Aka to demonstrate how easy it is to use. Aka is able to pull water out from the well with minimal effort, but no one understands how it works. Even though it is a low-level item, Kunae plays it off as some miraculous thing from his homeland that can start a war. He makes the girls promise to keep this pulley wheel a secret, and even creates a fertilizer so they can have a better harvest. Noticing the bunny girl's reaction, he realizes people here are utter morons, and he can make trash items into priceless valuables with a little wordplay. Luna sees the good in his heart for helping the bunnies, but Kunae has to stay in character and says he did it for his personal gain. He reveals he needs staff to run the clinic in the hot spring, so he will have the bunnies do it for him. Since it helps the village, Luna decides to let him off the hook just this once. Meanwhile, in the capital, the elders gather to discuss Luna taking over the church-run territory. The eldest holy maiden Angel shows concern about Luna's actions because she thinks Luna is being deceived by the Demonlord. Dona, the poster child for obesity, wants permission to take out Kunai, but Marshall suggests they do not interfere with Luna's decision. Donna argues that Kunai burned a whole village, but once again, Marshall reveals Kunai only burned a single house as a distraction. Since they cannot understand Kunai's intentions, Angel advises them to wait for now. As Donna and Marshall leave, Killer Queen comes barging in, and Angel asks her if she is okay given the incident she was involved in. Angel mentions her running into Luna in the city of Yahoo, the Satanists, and the Dragonkin Zero, but all Killer Queen can focus on his unwavering love for Zero. She remembers how he punched a whole dragon into existence, and now she's hoping he'll summon his mini-dragon right up her alley. Angel is not too convinced about the whole dragon thing, but Killer Queen gets all defensive and starts describing him like he's the young Brad Pitt. That night, in a local bar, two girls, Mink and Organ, discuss the sighting of a Dragonkin named Zero. While Chunibyo is excited, Organ thinks these are just false rumors, or else the Beast Kingdom would have been all over it. Just then, the bartender Lei brings them drinks in a wanted poster of Kunai, who's famously dubbed as the Demonlord. Mink is thrilled to see Kunai's face and expresses her wish to find him. Yuki and Mikan, who are in the same bar, spot them leaving the bar, and Mikan mentions that these two are S-rank adventurers. Since she and Yuki are not strong enough to face Kunai, she believes Mink and Organ can help them capture him. However, Yuki wants Kunai and Kunai Jr. all to himself. Meanwhile, Kunai and the rest are dining in a high-class restaurant courtesy of Luna. Kunai compliments the aesthetic of the place, and Luna reveals it is one of her favorite places to come to. Just then, the manager walks up and welcomes them, and Luna reveals they are here to celebrate a special occasion. Later, as the food arrives, Kunai raises a toast to celebrate the healing of Akka's leg. The group happily enjoys their food, but Akka starts feeling a little sick because she is not used to such meals. During his smoking break, Kunai also realizes he is not used to such fancy foods and asks the waiter to bring him a food item that he creates using his admin commands. Soon after, the waiter does as asked and Kunai presents a strawberry tart, especially for Akka, which is the kind of food she actually likes. The girls start having mindgasms after tasting such a delicious dessert, but their joy is interrupted by a woman who inspired Thomas Edison to create a bulb. She introduces herself as Shrimpfly, a big shot of the high society. Even though Kunai does not know her, he politely invites her to their table, but soon realizes this fat bitch gonna lick the plates clean given her appetite. He telepathically asks Luna if she knows this cow, and Luna reveals that Shrimpfly is actually the center figure for all the wives of nobility. Given her social status, being on her bad side can cause problems, so Kunai lets her sit with them to save face. Later, as they are all seated at the table, Kunai tells her they're here to celebrate Aku healing her leg, and asks her to say some words of encouragement. Shrimpfly congratulates her and starts asking them about what it is like to be in the city. Kunai praises the city, prompting her to compare it to heaven on earth. However, Kunai mentions that some areas are also hell-like in this kingdom, so she asks what they should do to make them better. When he proposes transforming all lands to heave, Shrimpfly mentions it is a rather large proposition, but Kunai believes he can do it in a couple of years if he has the throne. When she asks him more about his big plan, Kunai pulls out the soap
Is that?
he has created using admin commands. Luna steps in, praising the item for cleaning their skin and making it shine. Seeing their pretty faces, Shrimpfly gets impressed and decides to try it tonight so she can finally wipe the off her face. He also pitches in a hot spring he plans on opening in the village, which is sure to make her skin shine like it's never shone before. When Shrimpfly believes he is speaking out of his the man starts detailing all the services he will provide in the hot spring, captivating her heart easily. Excited to be one of the first customers at that hot spring, she asks Luna to keep it a secret from her sister, because just like Luna, she does not get along with her siblings as well. Just then, the ground starts shaking and screams are heard outside. The manager comes running in and reveals the Satanists have attacked the city, stirring panic among the guests. However, Kunai sees this as an opportunity to spice up his dinner. Heading to the roof, he asks you to stay back and protect the civilians while he heads out and deals with the culprits. Luna insists on going with him, but Kunai believes she might be their main target, and it would be stupid to let her walk into a trap like that. Seeing Aku worrying for him like a daughter, he pats her on the head and promises to come back safely. With that, Kunai leaps into action and telepathically tells you to put up a good image for them while he's gone. Looking around the city, Kunai spots death and destruction everywhere, and amid the chaos, Mikan is taking out several satanists all by herself. When Walker uses a sneak attack on her, Yuki suddenly shows up and deals with it. Yuki then demonstrates his ice-based powers to scare the satanists away, but their leader Merge gathers them all and outnumbers the duo. Just then, Kunai himself shows up and uses his chat powers to take down the satanists with ease. The man even summons a giant hammer to crush the pathetic fighters. But Merge refuses to accept defeat and uses a dagger to make a cut in his own hand. A crest appears on his hand, followed by a red mist of blood that engulfs the entire area. From the mist appears a mid-level demon Carnival, who is, as the name suggests, mid at best. Yuki is quick to realize the satanists gave their own lives to summon this hideous thing, who then uses a magic spell to trap them in a black and white barrier. Unless Carnival is defeated, the barrier will never drop, and everyone will be stuck inside. As Carnival sings songs of his own praise, Kunai throws a stone at his head to shut him up. Kunai then throws a whole diss track at Carnival, causing her to lose cool and attack him. However, the demon soon realizes who he is up against and backs off. Kunai tells him how the last demon he fought died even before he could use his full powers. So this time he's decided to go all out from the very beginning to test his own powers. As Kunai starts walking towards him with a terrifying aura, Carnival begs him to let him live in exchange for a lifelong service. However, there is no place for a hideous swine in a party of petted baddies, so Kunai finishes him off with a single attack. The whole crowd watches the demon die at his hands and starts praising him, and his previous reputation as a wanted criminal is now dissolved. Meanwhile, in the Satanist Assembly Hall, Utopia fails to understand why his men summoned the demon so early, but his assistant Tron believes something unexpected must have happened in the city that led to it. Utopia then gives her the remaining 2 demons and advises her to use them at the Holy Castle. He then tells her to drag her ugly mug out of his sight, leaving her instantly rethinking every bad life choice that brought her here. Back in the fancy restaurant, the manager brings in a clown to cheer up the customers, but the clown is actually much more than what he appears to be. The man is actually an assassin hired by the satanists to take out Luna. Meanwhile, Luna worries about Kunai because he has not returned yet, but Akane is confident he will make it back safely. Just then, the clown walks in on them to strike up a conversation. However, Yu senses something amiss and starts toying with the clown by switching his arms using magic. After putting them back in place, she whispers in his ear that she can easily smell the poison that he's carrying in his pocket, and jokingly tells him to use something more subtle if he's come to assassinate someone. The clown is in utter shock, so when Yu threatens to slice him up, the man immediately runs screaming out of the restaurant. Meanwhile, Killer Queen and Fuji are busy defeating someone dead when 2 demons Hanatora show up thinking they stand a chance with her. Killer Queen executes one of them with ease, and even before the other one can attack, Marshall shows up and her out. Elsewhere, Make is fighting more satanists and takes them out with a single attack. Organ, on the other hand, is lying on the roof, uninterested in the things happening below. Nearby, Walking is gathered with his satanist troops when one of them arrives and tells him that Merge's squad was wiped out by the Demonlord. Having no other choice, they collectively cut their hands and give up their life force to summon another demon. This time, they manage to summon the Prince of Darkness named Orut, who looks more like a chick magnet than a demon. Angel immediately notices Orut's presence and casts a barrier around the palace to protect people from getting hurt. On the ground, Killer Queen notices Orut and Fujid decides to play hero in hopes of getting some sloppy toppy from her. However, he gets blown away by Orut's Superman laser eyes and barely survives. Not wanting to deal with weak humans, Orut summons a destructive field that stretches throughout the city, and it takes every bit of Angel's power to hold it back. As Killer Queen prepares to fight Orut, Mink shows up to get her share of the battle. Killer Queen uses her as a distraction to leap at Orut and overwhelm him, but after the man regains his footing, he easily breaks through her defenses and knocks her out. Mink quickly strikes Orut with her weapon, and when his skin starts burning, she reveals her weapon is created solely to remove evil from this world. Just as Killer Queen gets up, Tron shows up and releases Hades onto the battlefield, which removes their divine protection. Orut uses this as an opportunity to kick, and all Angel can do is watch from her tower, as she has to stay there to maintain the barrier. Kunai, on the other hand, watches it from the shadows and realizes he may never return to his world if the maidens are wiped out. This is why he resorts to summoning the most detested aid Zero. As soon as Zero steps onto the battlefield, Hades starts avoiding him, which allows Zero to walk directly into Orut's face. After some talking and kicking his gut, Zero turns around to show the dragon on his back and activates an ability that makes him even stronger. With that, he proceeds to beat the out of Orut, who soon realizes he is heavy outmatches. As a last resort, he turns his attention to Tron and impales her body to suck her blood out, causing her to slowly bleed to death. As she's slowly dying, she recalls a day when she was sitting outside in the snow without food and shelter. That's when Utopia found her and took her in. Just then, she opens her eyes to find Zero holding onto her. Turns out, he's given her a special recovery item to heal all her wounds. Zero asks the girl to at least smile, because he just saved her life, but she's been unhappy for so long that she forgot to smile. Orud realizes he is gonna get his kicked if he does not take action, so he uses his newfound strength to turn himself into her true form. When Tron gets scared, Zero assures her he will take care of it so she can learn how to smile again. Just as promised, Zero uses a single punch to obliterate Orud, shocking both Tron and Killer Queen, whose sprinkler goes off every time she sees him. Seeing Zero in action, the entire town cheers him up, and Tron, having found her savior, embraces him with tears in her eyes. Zero, wholehearted, accepts the hug from a young girl, but when Killer Queen tries the same, he tells her to back off because that's inappropriate. The next day, while the town is reconstructed, Kunai gets an audience with Angel, and she asks how he would like to be addressed. Kunai decides the title Demonlord would be appropriate, since everyone knows him by that name already. Seeing his nonchalant Sosuk from Walmart attitude, Angel has a hard time believing he's a good guy and asks what is his relationship with Luna. Kunai explains how meeting Luna was the most chaotic moment of his life, but they've somehow built a stable relationship with time. Angel is shocked because she sees Luna has a bossy on steroids and worries that Kunai might have used a hypnosis spell on her. She asks if he plans on harming the kingdom, but Kunai tells her to use her brain for once, assuming it still works after all the nonsense she believes in. Leaving his intentions vague, Kunai asks Angel for a favor. He's been planning on researching Seraph and asks if she could give him access to the library. Angel immediately gets her guard up, worried that Kunai wants to find Seraph's weakness in the books and harm her. Unsure of his intentions, Angel allows him to use the library, but refuses to share any information she has on the Seraph for safety reasons. Kunai gets up, stating how he can see the fear in her eyes from a mile away, so it would be inappropriate to continue this conversation. After taking a bow, Kunai is about to leave the room when she asks if he truly is the one who defeated the Demon King. Kunai, in his Ohio Rizzler attitude, says that the monster he defeated was more of a cheap imitation rather than a Demon King, which tells Angel how powerful he truly is. Leaving her room, Kunai can't help but simp over how pretty she is, but has to act cool since he's the Demonlord. He then shifts his focus to his skill points, which have increased drastically since his fight with Orud. With this many points, he can not only summon another aid but can also build a hospital in Hot Spring and still have some leftover points. He has also unlocked a fast travel ability that lets him travel to any place he has visited at least once before. Realizing the progress he's made, Kunai starts laughing like a maniac, and Aku immediately recognizes him from the sound of his laughter. She excitedly runs up to her, and Kunai picks her up like a father picks up her daughter, showcasing their beautiful dynamic. Later, Kunai and Aku head to the library, but the man is bored because he's unable to find anything relevant to his goals. He does learn that the world once had angels that suddenly disappeared, while their enemies, aka the demons, are still here, opening his mind to endless possibilities. None of the books mention anything about the Seraph and the angels, which makes him think they must have just abandoned the humans. Akka, on the other hand, is more optimistic, believing they are still watching over them. Aku then pulls up a book and asks Kunai if he can read it to her. The book tells the story of a dog named Fido who destroyed everything. One day, the villagers got upset and kicked him out of the town. Fido was broke as hell, so he became an adventurer and delved into the village dungeon to explore. On the way, he kept attacking soldiers until he reached the depths of the dungeon. There, he came across a female dog who was cornered by a slime. After saving her from the slime, Fido spent all night gently nibbling and comforting her. Soon after, he reached the deepest room of the dungeon, which was filled with treasures and gold. He carried all those items back to his village and became a popular dog. Kunai shows frustration because this book somehow had a worse plot than One Piece, but at least he learned that dungeons drop rare items and weapons. He asks the librarian if it applies to the real world, and she reveals that people do in fact find rare items in dungeons from time to time. When Akira created Kunai, he made him resistant to all attacks in the world, but his game did not have magic, which has now become Kunai's weakness. This is why he must find an item that can raise his magic resistance as soon as possible. On their way back, Kunai notices something fishy and sends Akka back to the inn while he stays back and inspects the area. He then casually walks into a dark alley and lights up his cigarette. anticipating a cheap ambush. However, he is shocked to see that the person following her is none other than Tron, who is happy to have found him again. Despite Kunai looking nothing like Zero, she can easily tell that he and Zero are the same person. She explains how she sees everything in color, from emotions to souls, which is why she can easily tell Kunai is Zero. Kunai doesn't have time for her filler and walks off, but Tron insists she brings Zero out once again. Kunai keeps denying any connection with Zero, but there is no fooling this girl. She bursts into tears, begging to see the person who saved her life. Not wanting to break her heart, Kunai decides to make her meet Zero on the condition that she joins his squad of misfits and works hard. She happily agrees to join the cause, asking if she needs to execute a lot of people for him. Kunai gets upset because everyone mistakes him for a dictator, mostly due to his title of Demonlord. He then explains how he will lead a large staff at the clinic and the hot spring, so Tron can help him by filling the spots. With that, he takes Tron with him and introduces her to the rest of his dishwashers. Luna comments that she senses the devil in her, but Kunai brushes it off, saying he needs her to work in the Rabby village. When Luna starts acting like a brat, Kunai reminds him how helping rebuild the village can not only boost her reputation in front of her sisters, but also the nobles. He also explains that Luna must learn to deal with all kinds of people as a maiden, or she'll be turned into a stupid tsundere that no one cares about after the third episode. Luna hesitantly agrees to help on the condition that Tron does not try to do anything evil. With that, he asks everyone to grab onto him, so they can teleport to Rabby village. Once there, he asks you to start the construction immediately. After finding a suitable open spot, he summons his base, and then produces a rare item called the First Aid Kit. Combining the two, he creates a field hospital that is ready to be opened instantly. You asks him what they should charge for treatments, but since Kunai does not understand the true value of coins in this world, he asks you to charge randomly until they figure it out. He also advises you to be careful when charging the poor because most of them cannot afford treatments. On the other hand, she can charge the nobles as much as she wants. After that, he created a hot spring resort right next to the hospital that contains CO2 baths, base baths, stone sauna, electric baths, herbal baths, and much more. He's also created a great hall with a fully equipped dining room and a Japanese-themed hot spring. Just then, Momo and Kan show up and Kunai asks them to gather the village folks here after working hours so they can have an opening ceremony. The girls mention how only nobles can afford such resorts, making Kunai wonder if he should create a separate bathhouse for commoners. With 3 copper coin payments, Kunai believes it will be a great source of slow and steady income. That night, Kunai decides to summon another aide that will help him run the resort. He mentions a gun specialist with a sister complex who is an extremely fast learner, so he can not only run the resort but can also defend the village when Kunai is away. Thus, he decides to summon the aide named Tahara, a middle-aged man with brown hair who doesn't look as bossy as described. Tahara is shocked to see that he is in a different world than usual, and Kunai asks him to follow inside so he can explain the situation to him. Kunai explains that the Great Empire does not exist in this world, and Tahara assumes he's in some shitty Isekai'd domain written by a toddler. As he lights his cigarette, Kunai takes a look at Tahara thinking he's already coming up with various ideas to improve this place. However, when he learns that Yu is also here, Tahara starts panicking and Kunai tells him how she pulled the arms out of an assassin and put them back wrongly just to toy with him. Akira finds Yu pretty but does not understand why he felt the need to code her into a sadistic mad scientist. Tahara then asks Kunai if he is sure about the fact that the Great Empire does not exist in this world. Once Kunai confirms, Tahara reveals he could be happier to live in a place without the Empire. He asks Kunai what he plans to do in this world, but Kunai himself has no idea yet. One thing he is certain about is that he does not want to go in the direction of building a great empire. Despite his plans, Tahara is all in, stating he and Minami would have died a long time ago if it wasn't for him. Minami is actually Tahara's younger sister, who is the main reason for his sister complex. Kunai then reveals they have to start working on this village, which contains a field hospital, a hot spring, and a bathhouse. When Kunai explains the extensive work Tahara will have to do, the man protests, claiming he alone cannot manage all of it efficiently. Kunai believes he can do it, and even taps his shoulder as a confidence boost. However, Tahara gets a shocking feeling upon being touched, but before he can understand what it is, Yu shows up and greets him. Soon after, Luna, Akane, and Tron show up as well, and Tahara is officially introduced to the squad. The next day, Kunai heads to Nandan and shows him a music box, which is something he has never seen before. He is utterly shocked, believing it to be a magic item. Kunai adds to his interest by stating people use this during cold winter nights to feel the warmth of music within the box. Nandan asks how much he would take to sell it to him, but Kunai cleverly asks him to judge the price on his own accords. This puts the old man in a dilemma, because he thinks the piece is super valuable, and if he aims for a lower price, kunai might turn his back on him. He asks kunai to give him a vague idea of its actual price, but kunai tells him each person holds a different value for this object, much like the beauty is in the eye of the beholder saying. Nanden gets all nervous, stating he could tell this music box has a very high market value, so kunai asks how much it would sell for if they were to put it in an auction. After thinking long and hard, Nanden settles the deal with 15 gold coins and kunai happily agrees to the deal. On his way out, he visits the boutique from earlier where he's greeted by the same fruity man. Kunai then shows up 2 outfits and asks him to recreate 20 of each piece. The manager takes a good look at the suits, and after careful inspection, he agrees to recreate the outfits. Kunai tells him to finish as soon as possible and send them to Rabby village. But when the man says time might be an issue, kunai gives him 5 gold coins straight up for the task. He further says he can add 2 more if the job is done on time, motivating the people to work faster and harder. After that, he visits a grocery store and pays them to send fruits and vegetables to Rabby village every so often. Despite all his spending, the man still has 3 gold coins left over, which will be enough to get by for a while. At night, kunai is back in his hotel when he suddenly transforms into Zero to get a better idea of how it feels. He recalls using Zero a lot during the heyday of the game, so much so that he became partners with him. In this Zero form, kunai gets a strong urge to crush the strong, help the weak face any opponent, and be the hero who saves everyone. The next day in Rabby village, Momo and Kyan are delighted to find out that both the quality and quantity of carrots have increased thanks to the water supply and fertilizer. The bunny people also enjoy a decent meal thanks to kunai, sending stuff their way yesterday, and things seem to be working out for the better in the village. Later, they all visit the bathhouse to clean themselves up, and it is a dream come true for them to be able to clean their body with warm water and soap. In the meantime, Tahara teaches the guys how to clean the hot spring and then educates Momo and Kyan on how to be better hosts for the customers. Seeing the 2 in bunny suits, he can't help but imagine how his sister would look in a similar costume. A week later, Shrimpfly makes her way to the Rabby village, where she is warmly welcomed by kunai and Tahara. She compliments the village's fancy exterior, and kunai reveals it will get even fancier in a month or 2. Given his promises with the soap, Shrimpfly is certain kunai will indeed turn this village into a crowd's favorite. Just then, an old man steps out of the carriage, and Shrimpfly introduces him as Sambo. She reveals this old geezer has eyes worse than his life choices, and dragged him here so he could finally have a good time since his life's been nothing but a sad excuse for existing. Kunai asks him about his condition, and the man starts off by yapping about his martial arts background. He then reveals his eyes were damaged by a magical beast several years ago, so he decided to retire as he's now useless on the battlefield. Kunai tells him a member of his team is an exceptional doctor, and she might be able to heal his eyes if he wishes. Sambo will take every chance he gets to get his eyes back, so he insists on seeing the doctor at once. They take him directly to Yu's clinic, and Sambo takes the cloth of his eyes to show the damage done by a venomous scarecrow. Despite knowing exactly how to fix his eyes, Yu refrains from using his magical powers because she fears it will scare Shrimpfly off. Instead, she pours medicine into Sambo's eyes and gives him his vision back. The man is so happy he cannot hold back his tears and runs off to serve again since he can see clearly now. After he leaves, Shrimpfly pays Yu with a holy lambda coin, which is the most valuable coin in the kingdom. Yu humbly accepts the payment and moors a friendship with Shrimpfly, which is exactly what kunai wanted. 10 years ago, a young Luna and her friend Eagle were running around in the streets, with Eagle asking her to take it slow. However, Luna was super excited to buy bread with a copper coin that she had on her. On the way, she came across a dining hall and vowed to be rich enough to be able to dine in there. Eagle thought it was impossible, but Luna believed she could make it. Just then, the gates opened and a nobleman noticed the 2 standing outside his property. He and his mates started throwing insults at Luna and Eagle, and Luna got so fed up she decided to join the church so she could become a holy maiden and teach them a lesson. Eagle asked her not to mess with the nobles, but Luna did not care and vowed to teach them a lesson. 2 years later, Luna was accepted into the church, and her training to become a holy maiden finally started. While accepting the position, she asked for a personal servant and was going to choose Eagle, but she is shocked to learn that her only friend in this world was executed. The church told her that Eagle was actually a demi-human, and Luna was forced to accept the fact that the church sees everyone other than humans as pests. Despite having her heart broken, Luna continued her training and became a holy maiden after another 2 years. She was allowed to use both light and golden magic, and was appointed to the village of Rabby, where bunnies blessed by the cherub live. Even after all these years, she still felt sad about Eagle's death, and asked the cherub to give her more power. In the present, Kunai breaks Luna out of her daydream and telepathically tells her that he is on his way to the hot spring with Lady Shrimpfly and asks her to be prepared. Soon after, Luna comes running out and takes the fatso away to give her a tour of their baths. Once inside, she is shocked to see different kinds of bathing spots. Momo and Kyan show up to wash her back and hair respectively. As they start explaining everything they like every anime character ever, Shrimpfly can't help but feel relaxed. Later, Luna introduces her to a carbon dioxide bath which makes her skin glow. Next, Luna takes her to the herbal bath section, which not only feels good, but also smells like forest and trees. During their baths, Shrimpfly asks Luna if she is in love with the Demonlord, causing her to get flustered. Despite Luna constantly denying any liking towards Kunai, Shrimpfly advises her to polish her feminine side to attract him towards her. Wanting to move on with the conversation, Luna drags her to the salt sauna, where you have to wait for the sweat to build up and use that to rub salt on your body. This allows the dead skin to peel off the body, allowing the fresh new skin to shine through. Shrimpfly is so impressed by the bath that she sends a letter to Angel, letting her know that she is on a vacation to Rabby village. Angel believes the Demonlord must have put her under his spell too and asks Killer Queen to take action. Killer Queen does not care much about it, revealing Luna has been acting so politely around Kunai, meaning she's fallen in love with him. Angel fails to understand how a holy maiden can fall in love with a Demonlord, and the Killer Queen mocks her for being a lonely virgin whose best romantic memory is a goodnight kiss from mom. She herself is in love with Zero, unaware that this supposed Demonlord is the same person she is head over heels for. Meanwhile, you visit Tahara, who's been working hard since the morning. She notices that Tahara is recreating the map of the village and has placed the buildings differently. She asks if he has a problem with how Kunai placed the buildings, but Tahara shoots her off by revealing he got permission from the chief to change the map layout. He also comments on the surprising display of loyalty Yu has shown towards Kunai, which is far different from her usual personality. He recalls how Yu used to be into tomboys before, but all she talks about now is the chief. Even though he finds her rather strange, he secretly prays to the gods to keep her like this forever, because she's much easier to tolerate in her current state. Tahara then goes over all the changes he wants to make, and Yu suggests asking Shrimpfly for suggestions. However, the man utterly refuses, stating he will not let any noble dictate what to do with her territory. The man gets so deadly serious about her dumb suggestion that he practically growls he'd execute Yu if she ever says something that stupid again. He mentions something about the Night City incident, and Yu immediately apologizes, stating she did not think it through. Tahara mentions that Kunai wants to go in the opposite direction of the Empire, and asks her to give her 2 cents on the topic. Yu reveals she found thrills in the mistakes of the Empire and that she feels the presence of God in their chief. Tahara thinks she is speaking out of but Yu insists that she really feels a godly aura coming out of Kunai. Later, Yu puts Kunai through a routine checkup, but it's less about medical practice and more about practicing her moves on him. Much like every other man who does let a woman finish, Kunai calls for an early exit and leaves the clinic. In the evening, Kunai enjoys a meal with everyone else and then enters the hot spring to relax himself. Just when he thinks he has a moment of peace, Tron shows up in her birthday suit to wash his hair. Kunai doesn't want Kendrick Lamar to make a diss track on him, so he asks Tron to skedaddle. But she insists she wants to see her savior Zero. No one here knows Kunai and Zero are the same person, so he drops Tron in the women's bath and decides to watch some TV. However, he realizes they have to cable and that they need to replenish snacks every day. Just then, Akane comes out of the herbal bath and lies in his bed, making him realize she wants to sleep in the same bed as him. Later, Luna comes rushing in thinking Kunai is being a pervert, but when she sees Akane sleeping soundly, she decides to join them in a 3-way. Suspecting that Kunai will try to touch her rear end, she orders him to place his hand under her head so she can keep an eye on it. The next day, Kunai leaves a letter for the girls, telling them he is heading to the capital and asking them to behave while he's gone. He notices that they are still sleeping in his bed, mumbling about how fun it is to bathe in the hot springs. Leaving them behind, Kunai is finally able to take a breath of fresh air, unaware that Mikan and Yuki are close by. Yuki says he has been having a lot of dreams about the Demonlord lately, and is delighted to see him walking just a few steps ahead of them. He quickly runs up to him, and even though Kunai recognizes his face, he cannot recall what their names are. They ask where he has been, and Kunai reveals he's been working on reforming the Rabby village. When asked for the purpose of his visit, he reveals he's come here to ask some questions from the Adventurers Guild. He tells them he wants to know about the northern dungeons, but in reality, he wants to buy an item that wards off magic attacks. Yuki tells him the guild will not give him info about things that lie outside the country, but he will if he lets him taste his juices. Mikan, of course, is not fond of the idea, reminding him that the man in question is dangerous and straighter than the mom her mom dances on. This starts an argument between the two morons, which ends with Yuki asking Kunai to join them for a meal. The man initially turns him down, but Yuzi uses his femboy charms to fool him into thinking he's a petted girl. After Kunai agrees to a drink, Yuki grabs his arm and snuggles up to him, while Mikan walks 10 feet away from them. Arriving at their favorite bar, Mikan asks for 3 drinks, and the bartender Lei recognizes Kunai from somewhere. The man starts sweating thinking his cover might be blown, but Lei only remembers him as the Demonlord. Immediately, some locals start gathering around asking Kunai to sit with them. Avoiding all the attention, the 3 of them get seated at the corner table, and Lei brings them 3 jugs of ale. As Kunai reaches for his drink, Yuki suddenly leaps into his lap and wishes to help him drink, but Kunai prefers drinking on his own and pushes him off. After chubbing it down, he plays cool from the outside, but is screaming with joy on the inside. Just then, Yuzi grabs his jug and starts drinking from it, dubbing it as an indirect kiss. Just then, Lei arrives with snacks, and Yuki once again pulls the same indirect kissing stunt with him. Since this is getting non-PG by the second, Kunai decides to cut to the chase before the scene needs a parental advisory sticker. Mikan does not want to converse with the Demonlord, but he's saved them twice, so she tells him the basics of adventuring. They explain how the adventurers raid dungeons, defeat monsters, and find loot. They can also sell monster horns for money, and each adventurer is assigned a rank based on their powers. The higher your rank it is, the more guilds seek you out, much like professional sports. They also tell him about the constant wars with the neighboring countries, which affect the life of an average adventurer in the worst way possible. He asks what kinds of things people usually find in these dungeons, and Mikan classifies them into 5 categories. Anything made from basic metal and leather is called normal, while the items made from fangs, pelts, and such are called solids. Then there are high-end items made from precious metals and materials which are only forged by dwarves. The next category is called unique, which consists of super rare weapons wielded only by S-rank adventurers. The last category is the legendaries, which are used by the holy maidens. Adventurers can also find unidentified items and name them as they wish. As Yuzi gets a little too close for comfort, Kunai asks them if he can find any decent items in the shops. Yuzi tells him most shops sell common items, and the weapons he is looking for are of unique class, which will be nearly impossible to find in shops. Kunai will need to see for himself, and since the village is in Tahara's safe hands, he feels like he can take some time off from it. Kunai reveals he is heading to the north, so Yuki asks him to take him along since he is a B rank and knows the area. Since everyone else is busy doing their own chores, Kunai agrees to take him along. Despite protest from Mikan, he eventually forces her to join as well. Meanwhile, Angel prays to the Seraph, asking it to give him the Omega Staff. She wants to use all the power in the staff to rescue Luna, believing that her little sister has been manipulated by Kunai to do his bidding. Taking the staff, she teleports to the Rabby village, but is shocked to see the place turned into a bustling town. As she enters the village, Tahara mistakes her for a worker and scolds her for slacking during duty hours. Angel agrees to work to blend in, but is soon spotted by Luna, who is confused to see her here. Angel asks her to escape to the capital, but Luna insists on staying back and making their base stronger. Angel assumes Kunai plans on turning it into his own castle and raise demons so they can destroy the kingdom. Before they can talk further, Tron arrives and asks Luna to come with her, because she needs her help destroying a large boulder. Before leaving, Luna asks Kan and Momo to accompany Angel to the hot spring, but Angel is too focused on the fact that Tron has devil blood in her veins. Later, as she enters the bath with all sorts of negative thoughts, she is taken aback by different kinds of baths available at the resort. Heading further in, she comes across Kunai himself and assumes he lured her in for an ambush. Kunai assures her that this outdoor bath is a sacred safe place and no harm will come to her here. Even though his loins are burning seeing her in the flesh, the man's gotta keep up his act for the plot. He first assumes it must be some kind of a trap to make him drop his guard, but he then realizes the kingdom would not send their queen to partake in such a lewd plan. Trying his best to hide the excitement of Kunai Jr., the man asks Angel why she's come so far from the capital. Before she can answer, Kunai reminds her that her holy maidens are on display and gives her a towel to cover herself. He then urges Angel to step into the bath, but the OnlyFans woman in her gets upset because in a way Kunai refused to look at her body. While Kunai wants to discuss business, all Angel is thinking about is her body, which she thinks isn't good enough for a man like Kunai. Looking up at Kunai's body, she gets all moisty but pretends to not be affected by his massive schlong. She then asks if he plans on betraying the kingdom, but Kunai reveals he has no such aspirations. In fact, Both Luna and Shrimply have chosen to stay in the village at their own volition. Angel walks up to him and sternly asks him why she should trust the world of a demon lord. But Kunai asks him to keep her melons out of his face. He then tells her to stop and actually try to enjoy the bath, which might make her stupid head understand why people are choosing to stay in this village. As she dips in her body, Kunai assumes he can finally relax, but Angel starts whimpering like heat, making the man even more excited. While explaining how a good bath frees the soul from all the worries, Kunai pours her a cup of sake, which she thinks is potioned. However, Kunai starts mocking the cowardice of a holy maiden, blaming her scaredy for the sad state of this nation. Pumped up by his mockery, Angel uses a spell to see that the sake is safe to drink, and Kunai comments that the only poison in this kingdom is the people running it. He narrates the story of how Aku was treated by her own people and assets, how such bullies are treated like in this country, after they share an indirect kiss by drinking from the same cup. Kunai starts teasing her again, but this time she gets upset and starts yapping. Shut her up. Kunai secretly uses admin commands to summon an halo, and gives it to her as a gift, which will serve as a symbol of her innocence. Later, they meet outside the resort with Angel wearing the halo over her head. Kunai asks how she traveled here, but Angel refuses to reveal the teleportation powers associated with the seraph. Since she needs to go back, Kunai places his hand on her waist and asks her to relax. The man then uses his own teleportation powers to take them to the castle, and Angel is shocked to see him have the same powers as the seraph. She asks Kunai who he really is, but Kunai says it's best that decides that for herself by judging his actions. He then strictly tells Angel to never tell anyone about his powers, and Angel understands because it would send the kingdom into chaos. She asks again who he is, and Kunai says he is someone who would require her cooperation in the future. He then reveals he is doing research on Seraph because he was called here by Afen. Angel is shocked with this revelation, but finally understands why Luna and Shrimply were attracted to him. Furthermore, she also understands why Kunai has the power to give halos and use miracles only known to Seraph. Before she can ask any more questions, Kunai says farewell and leaves, hoping to see her again soon. After he leaves, Angel realizes that Kunai is actually Lucifer, who was famously known a fallen angel and the demon lord. Holding the halo close to her heart, she is convinced that no evil being is capable of creating it and vows to take Lucifer back to his glory. That night, Kunai is back in the bathhouse when Aku joins him and sits in his lap, since she has a habit of snuggling up to him. Kunai advises her to keep her distance from other men like a responsible father. However, she says he is the only man he feels safe around, and that she is smart enough not to trust anyone else. She then asks if he will be gone long on his trip north, but Kunai assures her he will come back instantly if he is needed. When she says she will be lonely without him, the man promised to get her something on the way. As the two share a father-daughter moment, Tron and Luna show up too, and Luna immediately starts yelling, like the annoying that she is. Kunai, being used to her bullshit, tells her that he dropped Angel back to the castle safely. Since it is getting late, Tron suggests getting asleep, but all three of them fall asleep next to Kunai, while he stays up all night. The next day, before leaving, he makes Yu in charge of the hospital and leaves the rest of the village to Tahara. He asks them to call him back in case of an emergency, but Tahara is confident he can manage on his own. Looking around, Kunai realizes the village now looks much better than when he saw it the first time, all thanks to his efforts and help from his aides. He also has people to protect now, so he must become stronger and overcome his weakness against magic. With a stern look, he asks Tahara to execute anyone who bats an eye at the village. With that, he gets seated in the carriage and leaves for the north alongside Yuki and Mikan. That's it for this video. Leave a like and comment which anime you want used to cover next. If you want more recaps like this, watch this video here.